Have you ever felt like English is this towering wall, cold, distant, and impossible to climb over? Standing on this side, you see a world wide open. Endless opportunities, vibrant conversations, books, movies, dream jobs, but you turn away, unsure of where to begin. I used to be that person, standing outside that door, wishing I were good enough to enter, yet too afraid to step forward. Until I met someone and heard a story that completely transformed my journey with English. I remember that day clearly. A light drizzle was falling. I was working at a small coffee shop, wearing an old apron, equipped with nothing but a few English phrases. Hello, thank you, sorry, I don't understand. That was my entire vocabulary. That day, a woman named Monica came into the cafe. She spoke to my coworker in fluent, effortless English. But what impressed me wasn't her pronunciation or vocabulary. It was her eyes. They were confident, glowing, fearless when she spoke English. I wished I had that confidence. After their conversation, I gathered my courage and asked her, "How did you get so good at English?" Monica smiled, a kind, honest smile. She told me, "I was afraid of English too at first, but I started small, reading just one page every night, reading it again and again, guessing meanings, reading out loud, writing down interesting words, and making sentences. At first, I didn't understand a thing, but I kept reading, kept speaking, every single day. Then one day, I suddenly realized I had understood a whole page without a dictionary. Her story wasn't flashy. There were no magical formulas, no secret tricks, yet it lit a fire in me. That very night, I started. No fancy plan, no pressure to learn 1,000 words in a month. I simply made a promise to myself, 1 page of English each day. I picked a simple comic book because the pictures helped me guess meanings. I read slowly, whispering each sentence. When I met words I didn't know, I guessed, using the pictures, the context. I started practicing thinking aloud, saying my thoughts in English, even if it was just, "This is a cat? Maybe? No, wait, a tiger?" I learned to mimic how the characters spoke, called shadowing, to get used to the rhythm, the tone. At first, it was honestly ridiculous. I felt more like a toddler than a language learner, but that innocence, that playfulness, it helped me grow. Every day, I spent about 20 minutes learning. No pressure, no stress. I bought a small notebook and wrote down only the words I liked. Not every new word, just the ones that felt interesting or useful. Then, I made my own sentences. Not boring textbook ones. I made sentences about my life. I drink coffee every morning because it smells like dreams. Every sentence brought me joy. On the 3rd day, I was reading as usual when I suddenly realized I understood everything. I didn't need the dictionary. I just read a full English page. That moment felt like reaching the top of a tiny mountain. No applause, no trophy. But my heart was racing. For the first time, English didn't feel like a subject. It felt like a part of my life. Gentle, close, and exciting. That little joy took me further. I started listening to short English podcasts in the morning while brushing my teeth. I rewatched my favorite movies with English subtitles. I tried talking to myself in English while walking. Today is sunny. I feel a bit lazy, but I'll read tonight. These small things, repeated daily, became like bricks building a strong foundation. No one had to push me. I kept going because I truly enjoyed the feeling of understanding, of expressing my thoughts in another language. One day, during a shift at the cafe, a foreign customer asked me, "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" I smiled and naturally replied, "No, go ahead. Do you want the menu in English or Vietnamese?" It wasn't perfect. It wasn't native sounding. But the customer smiled back. "Thank you. Your English is good." I turned around, heart full of joy. That was the first time I used English in real life without fear. No hesitation. I spoke. I understood. From someone who was afraid of English, I became someone who liked it. From someone who didn't know where to start, I realized even reading one page a day could change everything. I didn't study for exams. I didn't learn for praise. I learned because I loved the feeling of understanding an English song. I learned because I wanted to tell my story to the world. And I learned because I believe anyone can learn English if they start with something simple. That's how I began. No complicated textbooks, no fancy apps, no secret formulas. Just a comic book, a pen, and a heart willing to be patient with itself. My simple way to learn English, this journey, anyone can start. And maybe just one page today could open the door to a whole new world tomorrow. Learning English isn't just about opening a book every day, listening to lessons, memorizing new words, and doing exercises. It's a long journey, and like any journey, you need to know how far you've come so you can adjust your steps accordingly. I used to think that as long as I was diligent and consistent, that was enough. But then I realized working hard without knowing how much progress you've made, working hard without taking moments to evaluate and check yourself, is like walking blindly in the dark. And it was Monica, my inspiring companion, who introduced me to a surprisingly simple yet incredibly effective method: regularly checking your learning progress. Once a month, she sets aside time to face what she has learned, to review the knowledge she has accumulated, to see which vocabulary words she truly remembers, which sentence patterns are still blurry, and which skills need sharpening. This wasn't something that made her tired or stressed. On the contrary, it was how she kept her inner fire burning brightly. I began to realize that tracking progress is not just a step in the learning process. It's a priceless compass. It helps me position myself on the long journey, preventing me from getting lost or discouraged when it feels like I'm studying forever but not improving. Progress checks act as a mental anchor, a place where I can clearly see my achievements, even if they are small and humble. But why is this so important? Why does simply looking back and evaluating make such a big difference in motivation? The answer lies in the fact that people need to see results to keep pushing forward. When you learn a new word, you might not immediately feel its value. But when you check back after a while and realize you can remember it, use it in a sentence, that feeling is amazing. That's the moment you realize your efforts weren't wasted. You're moving forward every day, every hour. Progress checks also help me better understand whether my study methods are effective. When I see I've forgotten many words, I start asking why. Was I rushing, unfocused, or using the wrong approach? Once I identify the cause, I make changes. Sometimes I add more note-taking. Sometimes I practice speaking aloud, recording myself and listening back for corrections. Sometimes I change books, switch videos, or try studying with friends to boost interest. All of this begins with progress tracking, with knowing exactly where I stand. To me, learning English is like building a big house. Each vocabulary word is a brick. Each sentence is a step forward. Each exercise is part of the foundation. If you don't check whether each brick is strong or if the foundation is solid, your house will easily collapse when storms come. Similarly, if you learn English without knowing which parts you've mastered and which parts you don't, your spirit can crumble when new challenges arise. I remember one time, after reviewing my vocabulary progress, I realized my listening and speaking were still weak, even though I thought I'd improved a lot. That surprised me and made me a bit downhearted, but that was the moment I knew I needed to change. I started spending more time practicing listening by tuning into podcasts and watching movies without subtitles, then repeating phrases aloud. Every day, I dedicated 15 minutes to speaking practice, recording and comparing my pronunciation with native speakers. And I know that because I tracked my progress, I discovered my weaknesses and focused on improving them. There were times I felt tired, discouraged, and wanted to give up. But looking back on the journey I'd made, seeing how I had progressed bit by bit, gave me incredible motivation. I felt renewed energy from my small victories. Progress tracking isn't just a technical task. It's an act of connecting deeply with the English language, helping me understand that every day of study matters and every minute of focus yields results. The special thing is, when you maintain regular progress checks, you gradually form a disciplined, scientific learning habit. You stop studying haphazardly and start planning specifically. Week by week, month by month, you set clear goals. How many words to learn today? How many sentences to master this month? And you always know where you stand on this path. This makes learning English far more systematic and effective. Finally, I want to send a sincere message. Treat progress tracking as an indispensable part of your English learning journey. Don't hesitate to face your weaknesses. Don't fear failure, because through progress checks, you understand yourself better. Find the right path and walk steadily forward. Every small step forward deserves recognition and celebration. You'll see that when you know you're improving, your motivation grows stronger to continue conquering English and opening new doors in life. There is a saying from my teacher that I still remember clearly to this day. Mistakes are an indispensable part of learning. It sounds simple, but truly understanding and applying this in life, especially when learning English, a language that is not your mother tongue, is a journey that is far from easy. At first, like many others, I was afraid of speaking incorrectly, writing wrong, mispronouncing, and even feeling shy when I couldn't express myself fluently. That fear seemed like an invisible wall standing right in front of me, blocking my way forward and making me want to give up halfway. But then, as I reflected on my teacher's words, I began to try changing my mindset. Mistakes are not enemies, but teachers, bridges leading me to success. Reality proved this more clearly than ever. I remember once during a conversation with a client, I mistakenly said a quite simple English sentence, yet the other person still understood what I wanted to convey, smiled cheerfully, and encouraged me to continue speaking. That feeling was magical. It helped me realize that mistakes in communication are not failures, but a part of the learning process. As long as we dare to speak, dare to err, and dare to correct, we will progress. Not only myself, I was also lucky to have like-minded friends who were on the same English learning journey. Sem, a friend from Brazil, often shared a wonderful perspective. We don't learn English to be perfect immediately, but to communicate, connect, and broaden our worldview. Thanks to conversations with Sem and many others, I learned that one's attitude toward mistakes is the decisive factor for success. Instead of avoiding mistakes, we should face them and learn from them. This attitude gradually made me steadier and more confident with every sentence and conversation. To improve my speaking and pronunciation skills, I decided to start reading aloud every day and apply the shadowing method, listening, and immediately repeating after native speakers. What mattered was not speaking perfectly, but treating every mistake as an opportunity to correct and improve. There were times I mispronounced words, mixed up sentences, or forgot what to say next, but I persisted with consistent practice. I even recorded my voice to listen back and adjust. This was an important turning point that transformed my fear of mistakes into an excitement for exploration, becoming a motivation to learn English daily. Learning is a process, not a race to be fast or a contest to be perfect instantly. Every day a little, every time a small mistake, every time a correction, I felt like building a solid foundation for long-term English use. Changing my mindset from I have to be right immediately to I have the right to be wrong in order to learn was the key to freeing myself from pressure and shyness, and from there opening new doors in communication and learning. Many times I asked myself, why was I so afraid to make mistakes? Was it fear of judgment? Fear of not being good enough? Or simply because I was used to stressful and pressured learning methods? But then I realized that accepting mistakes and learning from them not only improved my English, but also helped me develop a positive mindset in life. When I dared to try and fail, I became braver in facing every other challenge. Looking back, I am very grateful for every mistake. Every time I spoke wrong or wrote wrong, even every misunderstanding. Each time was a precious lesson teaching me how to listen, how to be patient, and how to love the learning journey. I also realized that perfection is just an illusion. The most important thing is to progress little by little, to keep striving, and to maintain a spirit of curiosity. And the best part is, when you overcome the fear of mistakes, you open a new world where English is no longer a strange language, no longer a fear, but a tool for connection, experience, and self-development. That is the moment when you realize English is not a burden, but a joy, a passion, a companion on your journey to conquer knowledge and broaden your vision. I still remember those first days practicing reading aloud and shadowing, every sentence careful, cautious, afraid to make mistakes. But day by day, daring to speak and err, I was no longer pressured, but instead gained confidence, excitement, and a desire to challenge myself more. I could clearly see myself improving step by step, small but steady. From these experiences, I want to send you a sincere piece of advice. Never let the fear of mistakes stop you. Turn it into motivation, a sign that you are stepping out of your comfort zone and growing. Remember, every master was once a beginner who made mistakes. The key to success is not never making mistakes, but knowing how to get up after every fall, learn, and keep moving forward. So are you ready to change your mindset, embrace mistakes, and turn them into stepping stones toward success? Start today with small steps, perseverance, and passion. And I firmly believe that one day soon, you will be surprised to realize that you have overcome the fear of mistakes and become stronger and more confident in your English learning journey. Mistakes. Just a single word that can make many people feel awkward, worried, or even scared. But if you think about it, could those mistakes actually be the most valuable teachers in your life? Moreover, mistakes aren't always bad. Sometimes they create charming, funny moments that make the journey of learning and growing much lighter, more relatable, and genuine. Let me share a story, my story, where mistakes in communication, although confusing at first, became the key to feeling more comfortable, natural, and even joyful. I clearly remember one time when I was chatting with friends in English, and I accidentally said, "No milk in the sandwich," which sounded completely odd and made everyone burst out laughing. Actually, I wanted to say something else entirely, but that slip-up created a humorous moment that broke the tension and helped me worry less about saying every single word perfectly. That small moment became an important milestone in my language learning journey. I began to realize that making mistakes is not something to be ashamed of, but a sign that I'm truly trying and stepping outside my comfort zone. Those adorably wrong sentences don't just make people laugh, they make communication closer and more natural. Have you ever said a silly English sentence or used the wrong word? Did you feel embarrassed or wanted to hide? But if you look back, those moments are the chance to shed the burden of perfection and be true to yourself. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we no longer feared mistakes, but saw them as little gifts that help us improve bit by bit? After many such moments, I reminded myself of a simple but profound mantra. Mistakes are the teachers. Every mistake, big or small, carries a valuable lesson. Sometimes it helps me understand sentence structure, pronunciation, or new vocabulary. Sometimes it teaches me about myself, patience, determination, and the ability to laugh at my own faults. I started to see mistakes not as barriers, but as gentle signposts guiding me in the right direction. Whenever I made a mistake, I told myself, "Thank you, mistake, for showing me what I need to learn." This shift in mindset made me feel much more at ease. I no longer felt disappointed or discouraged when making mistakes, but saw it as an essential part of growing. So how can you build that mindset when society often teaches us to be perfect and avoid errors? It's a process, a habit you need to cultivate. Instead of blaming yourself, try to turn negative thoughts into words of encouragement. For example, when you make a mistake, say to yourself, "This is just a small step on a long journey. I will learn more from here." This small change in perspective can create a huge difference in your learning and personal development. Throughout this process, I was also lucky to have friends who stood by me, encouraged and cheered me on. Once, after a full conversation filled with errors, a friend sincerely praised me. "You did very well. Keep going." Just that simple sentence was like warm sunlight piercing through rainy days, giving me more motivation to keep trying. Encouragement is an incredibly powerful force, capable of turning fear into motivation and hesitation into confidence. When you know someone believes in and supports you, you gain the courage to overcome obstacles and never give up halfway. What about you? Do you have someone who has encouraged you in your learning journey? Remember, sometimes a simple encouraging word can change a whole life. Then I made a very serious commitment to myself. No matter how many mistakes I make, I will never give up. Because every mistake is a step closer to confidence and mastery. The most important thing I want to share, what I remind myself every day, is just speak, just learn, just move forward. Every mistake is not a failure, but a door opening, an opportunity for you to improve, understand, and grow stronger. When you accept mistakes as part of growing up, everything changes. You escape the endless loop of perfectionism and instead feel freedom and joy using the language. You learn to get up faster after falling, not feeling hurt or discouraged. You connect with others through sincerity, not a perfect but fake version of yourself. You learn more deeply and effectively because every mistake helps you see where you need to focus on improving. And most of all, you enjoy every step of the journey, like an adventure full of surprises instead of a boring, stressful task. Now I want to ask you one thing. Are you ready to embrace mistakes and turn them into close companions on your learning journey? Do you dare to let yourself make mistakes? Dare to let others see those silly moments like my no milk in the sandwich? Try it once, and you'll see how much easier everything becomes. Start today. Don't hesitate. Say imperfect sentences. Write inaccurate sentences. Listen to lessons you don't fully understand. Because every step, every stumble, every mistake is an essential part of your special story of growth and success. Remember, mistakes are not the end, but the path leading you closer to the best version of yourself. Learning a new language, especially English, is often a journey full of challenges and emotions. Many people start excitedly, hoping to speak fluent English quickly, but gradually feel frustrated and confused because of mistakes when communicating or lack of confidence. I have experienced those feelings too. Afraid of being judged when mispronouncing words, afraid of making grammar mistakes, afraid of not understanding others. These fears made me want to give up many times, but eventually I realized a very important thing. Mistakes are an indispensable part of learning and growing. When you start learning English, you will definitely encounter funny and awkward situations, silly mistakes that make you remember forever. I remember once I said a very wrong sentence, "No milk in the sandwich," which made my friends burst into laughter. At first, I felt embarrassed, anxious, and wanted to avoid speaking English in front of others. But gradually, I realized those mistakes were not failures, but precious lessons. They helped me feel more comfortable, natural when communicating, and more importantly, helped me remember the correct sentences better. If you look at mistakes in English communication positively, you will find they are not as scary as you think. I started to change my perspective on mistakes. Instead of something to avoid, now I see mistakes as a teacher. Every time I make a mistake, I don't blame or feel disappointed, but instead, I ask myself, what can I learn from this? How can I say it better next time? That attitude makes learning much easier. Instead of worrying, I started to enjoy speaking English, no matter if the sentence was perfect or not. Mistakes help me understand my weaknesses and then focus on improving little by little. If you can also see mistakes as a teacher, you will surely overcome psychological barriers and improve faster. On my English learning journey, I was very lucky to have support and encouragement from friends and family. Every small compliment when I dared to speak English, even with mistakes, became a big motivation to keep trying. They didn't just praise my correct sentences, but encouraged me when I dared to try and express myself. You should also find a group of companions, a teacher, or relatives who can support and encourage you. That companionship will make you feel less alone on your English learning path and create positive energy so you don't give up when facing difficulties. In reality, there is no easy path to learn a new language, and everyone will have moments wanting to quit. I also felt like that many times, but I always remind myself, just speak, just learn, just keep moving forward. It doesn't matter if you speak correctly or not. What matters is that you don't stop. Perseverance and determination not to give up are the keys that help me improve every day. Every mistake, every challenge is a step closer to confidence and mastery. Learning English is not a race, but a long journey requiring persistence, patience, and self-belief. The biggest lesson I learned is not just about learning English, but also a lesson about life. Accepting mistakes, learning from failures, and constantly moving forward helped me grow a lot. I became more patient, knew how to motivate myself in tough times, and kept a positive spirit in every situation. These lessons not only helped me with English learning, but also helped me face challenges in work and everyday life. Daring to try, daring to fail, daring to correct is a valuable skill that helps me firmly step on the path of personal development. My English learning journey is not perfect. I still make many mistakes, but I choose to see it as an exciting adventure. Every day, even a small progress, is a proud achievement. I believe if you keep a positive attitude like this, you will no longer feel pressured or afraid when learning English. Enjoy the process. See every mistake as a precious experience, helping you get closer to your goal. To conclude, I want to send you a simple message that I always believe in. Just speak, just learn, just keep moving forward. Every mistake you make is not the end, but a solid step bringing you closer to confidence and mastery in English. Don't let the fear of making mistakes stop you. Turn it into motivation so you never stop trying. If you find this lesson useful and want to explore more simple, effective, and inspiring ways to learn English, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kunzy Podcast English. Every subscription and share is a great motivation for me to create more quality content to accompany you on the journey to conquer English. Let's overcome fears together, grow together, and become more confident in English and in life. Thank you for being with Kunzy Podcast English.